quite like me. Nah. Yeah. JJ, the CPA is here. Let's go. Yeah. Money. You know what it be. Tell them all I do is work, cause money never sleep. You never met a CPA quite like me. Nah.
JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. We are going to talk about an important subject today. Why should you be sold out? Now, why should you be hearing from me about this? Well, I'm Joshua Jenson. I'm a CPA. I've been doing this now for 30 years. Doing what? Helping small businesses, self-employed, just like you. I'm still in the trenches. I'm a practicing CPA. And for me to bring this information to you as a certified public accountant, I'm trying to put together information that is realistic, that I'm telling my clients about, that is maybe something you can take and implement it into your business to help you be just that much more successful. And maybe more importantly, to take some of this information to your advisors, to your team, so that you can be more profitable, which is kind of the biggest reason that we are in business. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope that you'll stay with me till the end. We're going to go through a top 10, but this is JJ the CPA's Small Business Toolbox.
The combination to money making, we got this. JJ the CPA is the master locksmith.
So we're talking today about why you should be sold out. So why? Because I'm going to tell you this, with many small business owners, that seems to be a very foreign idea. That seems to be something opposite and contrary to what you really would think needs to happen inside your business. But I'm telling you, in working with thousands of small business owners, self-employed, just like you, that are working hard every day, scratching it out, trying to make the most that you can for why? For you, for your family, for your employees, to ensure that you can pay your bills on time, pay your vendors. But what's really key here is to ensure that you're doing what makes sense for your business, which means what makes sense for you, for your family, for your employees, for your customers, your vendors, everybody that you're doing business with. And many times small business owners, they really, and these are my clients and really me, I'm a small business owner. I've had my own practice now 25 years, still do. But we don't want to give up that one sale, or we hear that, oh, somebody wants this, and all of a sudden now we're going to try and figure out a way to sell that. Now, there are serial entrepreneurs out there. What does that mean? It means somebody's just trying to sell everything to everyone. Small business owners and the self-employed are really most likely trying to find a niche. You know, we're competing with the bigger companies, the national companies. When we're a small business, when we're self-employed, we're trying to find a way to drive business towards us, to drive customers towards us, despite the fact that there might be a much bigger option for them. So real quick, let's talk about why you would want to be sold out. I think we have a graphic on that we can pull up. So when we're talking about why you should be sold out, I think you're at the top. Your graphics are at the top. We want to create urgency for your customer. That's what you're really trying to do here. You want to communicate that you're great. You want to create a finish line. You want to predict sales, predict cost of goods sold, predict your prices, make sure that they're done properly for your goods and services that you're selling. You want to predict profits. See, when you create urgency for your customer, you're then letting them know that they need to buy now. When you're communicating that you're a great company, that's what I would assume you always would want to communicate. Other customers buying you out communicates that, especially to new customers. Creating a finish line is, in essence, important for you to know when the weekend actually starts. The weekend doesn't start at midnight on Sunday, a minute before your week starts on Monday. A finish line for your team, a finish line for your finances is what's key. Being sold out also means that you were able to properly predict your sales, predict your costs, which means you can predict your profits. Why is this important? Because as a small business owner, you don't want to just sell and sell and sell and never really know, did I sell enough? Because I always just had more than what was needed by my customer. Retail has changed tremendously in the last several years, if not the last 10, but especially the last several years. When I was in college, believe it or not, I graduated in 1993 from Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas. And that was back well before the turn of the century. But there was a concept that still is alive. It's called just-in-time inventory. Now, you might be in a business that doesn't have inventory, so stick with me. I'm going to be talking about things that cover those that are selling, in essence, widgets, if you will, and those that are also providing services. But just-in-time inventory is a concept that's been around for a long time. And it really is, in essence, trying to properly predict what your customer is going to need, when they're going to need it, so that you supply the inventory at that time. And what does that do? It reduces down then your costs, because inventory is nothing more than costs sitting on the shelf. Many that are in the service industry don't realize you're always carrying inventory with your people, with your employees, those that are providing the service. So we're going to talk through a few examples. So really, when you're now looking at being sold out, that means that you found that line where it crossed the other line. What's the one line? What you're providing with what is want, right? Demand for what you're selling, demand for your product, demand for your service, and being able to know that. As small business owners and self-employed, we always want to ensure that we're able to sell when the client wants it. But there's really something to be said about being sold out in a few items. There was actually a study done by the University of Alberta. And one of the studies that they did was very simple, that if somebody were to go and buy a 5-hour pass for $20 to go skiing, would they then be more likely to buy that if the $10 pass was already sold out? And the numbers that they came up with is that there was a 61% chance that someone was going to buy the $20 pass for 5 hours of skiing. But when that $10 pass was sold out, there was now then a 91% chance that someone would go ahead and buy the $20 pass. See, it's what I had told you. It creates some urgency. It creates the sense that you're great. Something is already sold out. So what do we want to talk about here is this top 10. So we're going to start with the top 10 ways to be sold out. We talked about why to be sold out. Let's talk about how do you be sold out. And I'm sure you could come up with a lot of different ways. And for those of you that are wanting to really kind of get a little bit more out of this top 10, I'm going to go through this somewhat quickly. And then I'm going to walk through some examples related to that and circle back. So let's start with the top 10 ways to be sold out, right? Number 10, you would want to have integrity and a good reputation, which most likely you already have, but you want your customers to believe you that you're sold out when you say you're sold out. You don't want this to be a gimmick. You're not trying to falsely create a sense of urgency. You're not trying to falsely create a sense that you're great. A minor example of that would be if you go to a restaurant and they say, it's going to be an hour and a half wait, and you look into the dining room and they're only 10% full, meaning you see 14 empty tables, you're going to probably think the integrity of the person that's telling you that is not very high. Like, what are you talking about? I see a bunch of empty tables there. But if you walk into a restaurant and they're all full, they're going to believe you. They're going to have, in essence, that sense that, okay, I can believe what it is that you're telling me. And why is that important? Because at first you're going to say, well, of course they're going to believe you. They're in that restaurant. But how many times have you told somebody, oh yeah, go to this restaurant, but I'll tell you what, there's going to be a wait. because they're that good and it's worth the wait. That's why people are waiting, because they know that it's good. But by having a good reputation and having integrity, the key here is that you want your customer to then be telling others how good you are, to tell other customers, hey, go to them, but get there early. Think of a bakery. If they're sold out every day by about 3 p.m., you know that you've got to get there sooner. Number 9, have enough inventory to be sold out. What does that mean? What do you mean have enough inventory to be sold out? Well, what that means is that if there are some items that are new, maybe a new service, maybe it's a new product, you want to go, well, I want to have enough that I know I'm going to sell out. See, many times with small business owners, they will be in a situation where they then kind of go the opposite. They find a really good deal on what it is that they're selling, and then they overbuy that inventory, which really then ultimately eats into their profits, right? Meaning they go, well, if I buy 10, I can buy this to resell it. But if I buy 10, they're $1 each. But if I buy 20, well, then I can get them for 90 cents each. Well, that seems like a better deal. But what you have to figure out is, can you even sell 20? Would it be better to just buy 10 knowing you will sell 10, and therefore you will then be sold out, which then sends urgency? It in essence indicates that you've got a good product, that you're a great company. So having enough inventory to sell out, meaning not having too much. Now, if you already know, oh, we're going to sell out 20 easy, well, then of course you would buy 20. But for many small business owners, many times they just go, well, the more I buy, then the more I can sell. You've got to figure out, well, what is it that you can sell? Well, what's the best way to know if something's going to sell, whether it's a service or a product? If it gets sold out, right? Then you know, wow, this is really good. I better now go buy 10 more, or now I will buy 20 because we sold out so quickly. Number 8, know your capacity to expect to be sold out. Now, what are we talking about on your capacity? Well, the capacity, we're going to talk about this in a minute. I've got some things that'll go with this one. But when you talk about your capacity, it's knowing, well, how much can we do anyways, right? If you're selling a product, it's like, okay, but how many can you actually pack up and ship to the customer each day? You might be able to say, well, I could sell 1 million of these in one day. But can you ship 1 million of them in one day? What's the capacity to actually be able to do that? If you're providing a service, what's the capacity is time. How much time is there in a week? How many employees do you have, and how much time do they have? That's then now your capacity. So when you know your capacity, then you know when you're actually going to be sold out. Because see, sometimes it's important to be able to communicate to your customer, hey, we're filling up, right? How would that be in a service industry? How many times have you made a doctor's appointment and they said, hey, appreciate it. We'd love to get you in, but it'll be 3.5 weeks from now or 4 months from now. See, they already know they're sold out next week and the next week and the next month. They're already now able to communicate to you. But most likely, unless it's urgent, you go, well, I need to see this doctor, so I guess I'll make that appointment to come in 3.5 weeks or in 4 months. But see, they knew their capacity, and therefore they're able to communicate that they're sold out, which also then tells that patient, hey, I better book now. You know, with tax season, there's only so much time in a day. There's only so much time then in a week. And then there's only so much time during tax season. So I use this as an example with my own customers. So I could do an unlimited number of tax returns, but there's not an unlimited amount of time. So what is my capacity? Well, how many hours do I want to work this week? And how many hours can my employees work? That's my capacity. Because then you will know, do I need to increase my capacity? So you got to be aware of that. We're going to talk through some examples here a little bit later. Number 7, when we're talking about top 10 ways to be sold out. Number 7, focus on max sales possible, not max inventory you can buy. Now, when you hear the word inventory, you think of product on the shelf. But remember, in the service industry, your inventory is your people, your employees, your team, right? There's a number of hours ready to be worked next week. That's your inventory that you're then turning into a sale. Or we have 1,000 boxes of X that we're ready to sell. But many, many times you don't then focus in on, well, what is it that we can sell? So many times with more small businesses than maybe large businesses, it is sometimes hard to predict what the sales are going to be, whether it's service or for products. But then when you back into, though, well, what is it that we can actually handle? Then all of a sudden you did define what your max sales are. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Meaning, if you can work 40 hours a week and you have 4 employees that work 40 hours a week, so there's 5 of you working 40 hours a week, your capacity is 200 hours. So if on average you provide a service that takes 5 hours, well, then you know that you can only do 40 engagements that week, which then you're already defining what your max sales are. Because if only 40 projects can be done that week, then what are you selling each project for? And therefore you then know what your max sales are. When you know your max sales, then you can make better decisions. And when you know your max sales, then you know when it is that you're sold out. Number 6, have an alternative to sold out goods and services, right? So in that example I told you about earlier, where the University of Alberta did that study, they had a $20 pass available and a $10 pass available. So for $20, you got 5 hours. And for $10, you got 2 hours. So when the $10 sold out for the 2 hours, as I told you earlier, then that desire for the $20 pass for the 5 hours went up by 30%, because there was a 61% chance they would get the $20 pass. But then when the $10 pass sold out in their study, then the chance that someone was going to buy the $20 pass went up to 91%, which means that there could have been somebody that wasn't even necessarily going to buy either pass. They were just going to check it out. But then when they saw the $10 pass was sold out, it caused them to go, well, I better go ahead and get this $20 pass. I know that all of us have been in circumstances like that. So that was the alternative. See, it doesn't mean that the time on the slopes in this example, talking about skiing in this example that they did, it wasn't that the time ran out on the slopes. It was just that the pass that allowed you to do it for 2 hours ran out. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to get the pass for you to be on there for 5 hours. So what's key here is to have an alternative. It works really well, especially if you're introducing a new service or a new product where you're going, okay, well, maybe this is going to sell out. So let's put it out there. Let's put in an amount that we feel will 100%, we will sell out of this. But then when we sell out of it, what is then that customer going to buy instead? And let's make sure we have that. So it's having alternatives. Number 5, know how many hours you actually can work and how many hours your employees can work. This allows you to know when time is sold out. So even when you're selling inventory, there's only so much time in a day. There's only so much time somebody can buy and sell and answer the phone and pack and do all the things that would be required to sell the inventory. So you have to know when your time is in essence sold out. See, the reason you want to get to where you're sold out is what I told you earlier. Then you're able to go, well, then these are going to be my sales and these are going to be my costs. And here are my fixed costs. So I now know what I'm going to be profitable. And the reason that's key is that if that's not enough profit, then you know you need to sell more. You know that you might need to increase your prices. See, you're trying to force 2 things when you're sold out in your business. You're trying to force you to be more sharp on your skills in your business. What does that mean? If you just have thousands of products and you never sell out of anything, and at any given time you have half the product of everything that you possibly sell, and you're not selling everything out in a day, I'm not talking about a mega big box store here, I'm talking about you as a small business owner, you kind of can become complacent. You can become a little bit maybe lazy, for lack of a better word, where if you're pinpointing what it is that you have in the amount of time and your capacity to actually follow through with the sale of the product and the sale of the service, then it's going to make you that much more keen. Because until you know really what your profitability is, you don't even know if you actually price things properly. Until you've sold out of something, you don't really know if you priced it properly. You know, if you sell out on something that you just put on the market and you sell out it in an hour, what that really means is you could have charged more for it, which means that you probably gave up profits. You gave up the opportunity for more profits. See, the goal isn't necessarily that top line. You have many small business owners that I work with, and they focus in on that top line. And that's smart, but you got to go and look a step further. That top line, what is my direct cost to give me my gross profit, to cover my fixed costs, to then give me profit that would go to me, also pay off debt, be able to put into retirement. You're looking at max profitability. And for most, it's not just making the top line bigger by selling more and more and more. It's by finding that, in essence, sweet spot of I'm selling at max capacity at max price. Let's go to number 4. Be confident enough to know when enough is enough, right? As many small business owners and self-employed, we get emotionally involved in our business. We get emotionally involved in that customer, in that product we're selling, or in that service. And we love it so much that, well, you definitely want to buy this. You definitely need this. So I don't want to lose that sale. That's why so many times small business owners and self-employed don't increase their prices. They're concerned that they might lose that one customer because they went up $5. Well, I don't want to lose that one customer. But then they lost out on the $5 on 100 other customers or 500 other customers. Because we know your costs are going up in everything. So be confident enough to know when enough is enough. And what do you mean by that? Well, think of this. There's a barbecue place. I'm in Oklahoma, so there's a wonderful barbecue spot. It's about 12 miles north of me. And it's really outside of city limits. And basically what you know as a customer, if you've been there, is that when they run out of their brisket, then that's when they actually close for the day. And you would think, well, that doesn't even make any sense. If they are running out of brisket, then they should make more brisket so that they can stay open until 8 o'clock. But see, knowing who this family is, it's a family business. So they come in, they work hard, they make enough brisket that they know they're going to sell out that day. Sometimes they'll sell out at about closing time. Sometimes they might sell out an hour before that or 2 hours before that. But then they know, hey, this is when we're done for the day. What a concept. But see, the customer knows that, well, then we better get there early if we want to get that brisket, if we want to get in there. All right, it's kind of an old-fashioned way of doing business, right? If a business doesn't have anything to provide, then it's done for the day. So yes, that business decided that we're going to be done. But see, what it did is it sharpened their skills to go, well, we don't want to close at noon. We don't want to close at 2. I mean, if we're open till 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever time, then what amount of brisket do we need to buy and, in essence, cook so that we can make it almost to closing time? It sharpens their skill and it allows them to also be at max capacity and max sales. So part of it is if they're selling out at noon, it's like, well, maybe we need to charge a little bit more so we don't sell out as quickly, because the more that you charge, it's just direct more profitability. So you have to be confident enough. So this is a company that's confident enough to go, well, if there is a customer that's going to show up and read the sign that says we sold out for the day, we headed home. And you're right, there's going to be that one customer that goes, well, I'll never come back here. I will never make this trek 12 miles to have them tell me that they're sold out and they have already closed. But see, guess what? They could be sold out and then the customer can walk in and go, hey, I'd like to get some brisket. Okay, brisket, if you don't know what it is, it's beef that's cooked a certain way. And they could say, oh, well, we're all out of brisket. That customer is going to be just as dissatisfied. So they have to be confident enough in what they're doing, because guess what? Most customers, okay, they just know, well, I better get there early. There's customers that go there and they leave work early. They go during lunch if they want to have it for something to take home. The customers change their behavior. If you think for 1 second they've left a penny on the table, then you're still learning probably about your own business. So you have to be confident enough to know when enough is enough. This is also a family business that knows, hey, enough is enough. We have worked already all day. We've done this. We've sold it. We've made the profit we need to make. Now let's go home and enjoy ourselves. They're not open on Sundays and Mondays. You know, in Oklahoma, it's a popular time actually to go out to eat. On Sunday, many still go to services Sunday morning. Then they want to go out to eat after. Well, they're not open on Sundays. And you know why they're not open on Sundays? Because they need a day off. And they then take Monday off. They need to replenish themselves. So they're confident enough. And guess what? They're wildly profitable. They are wildly and massively making money hand over fist in a little hole in the wall in a shopping center. The cars they drive, the trucks they have, the horses and the boats and all the toys. And guess what? Because they were confident enough to go, enough is enough for the day. Number 3, be truthful with your customer when you are or will be sold out, but then be ready with an alternative sale. What does that mean? So again, you could go a route that I don't want you to go, that my customers don't go, which is you could just pretend that you're sold out on something by just saying, hey, we're sold out on this. But then if they hear another customer got it, or all of a sudden it's available the next day when you told them it was going to be a week or 2 from now, then that client, your customer, is going to lose a little faith. That was what I told you. The first thing in the top 10 is to have integrity and have a good reputation. So I'm not at all telling you, well, just show some product is sold out. Even if you've never sold it before, just show something sold out. I'm not talking about doing that. So it's being truthful. But the reason to be truthful is that, as I told you earlier, like with the doctor's office with their patient, then that customer's expectation is, okay, this time I didn't get there soon enough, so next time I better get in there sooner. I know that if I need an annual checkup, I shouldn't wait until it's time to have an annual checkup. I probably need to schedule that appointment several months in advance, or better yet, when I finish up today's annual checkup for this year, I better just go ahead and schedule next year's annual checkup. Your customer will change their behavior. You have to have that confidence that they will. And the way that your confidence will grow and your customer will change that is by being able to communicate to them. So let's just talk about on the service. If I'm during tax season, I use an example, or if you're somebody that is a veterinarian, or you're a counselor, or you're doing some kind of consulting, and somebody calls and like, hey, I need to get together with you. I need to schedule an appointment. So if you're able to say, well, I'm looking at my calendar, I can get you in 10 days, you've set that expectation. Wow, this must be a good consultant. This must be a good veterinarian. I do want to get in to see him. I better schedule that now. You're being truthful. You can also provide an alternative. What do we see a lot of times in the medical industry, or in the legal industry, or even in the tax industry with service? Well, in the medical field, it's, well, if you'd like to see the doctor, you can see them, and it's 3.5 months from now, or you can see the PA and we can get you in tomorrow. So there's the alternative. Your customer still had a choice, but you gave them an immediate alternative. So you were truthful and gave them an alternative. Same thing in the legal industry. We can have you meet with a paralegal next week, or the attorney can meet with you in 2 weeks. Tax season. Well, you can either wait for an appointment to give us your stuff, or better yet, why don't you give us your stuff now, drop it by, let's set that appointment. But then by the time you get to your appointment, we probably have the return mostly done. So it's being truthful and then setting up an alternative so that that customer doesn't go somewhere else. That $10 pass and the $20 pass for skiing that I gave you the example earlier is another one. Number 2, be strong enough emotionally to increase prices to slow when you're sold out. So when I'm talking with my clients and we're now talking about their pricing. So every year I follow up with my clients. It's kind of part of my summer checklist to just go, hey, here's the things I want to talk about with my customer being small business owners. We're kind of mid-year, so it's not tax season. we're doing some tax strategies, but I also want to talk to them about their numbers. So I usually say, hey, when's the last time you increased your prices? And typically what I hear is, well, probably last year when you told me about it, or, well, it's been a couple of years. I know many didn't want to increase prices because of the pandemic. But what you need to look at is when you're increasing your prices, this is what my grandfather told me. He was a CPA, had his own practice, and worked with small business owners and the self-employed, just like you, just like I am. But he gave me the example with his own practice. And he said, tell this to your customers. So he told me this back when I was about 22 years old, while I was in college. I guess I had just started practicing at 22 because I graduated when I was 21. But he was kind of already mentoring me in having my own practice, because I knew that that's ultimately what I wanted to do, is have my own tax practice like him. He said, when you go to price your services, and this is something you can share with your own customers when you have them, think of it this way. If you charge $100 an hour and you have 100 customers, okay? So on those 100 customers, they're paying you $100 an hour. If you then go back to your customer base and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to charge $105. And you have one customer that leaves you. So now you have 99 customers. But guess what? You're still making more money than when you had 100 customers. So even though you lost the one customer and you lost, quote unquote, the $100, well, if you work out the math, now charging the 105, you're going to come out basically the same. So by increasing your prices, it's okay if you lose a customer, because the other thing that my grandfather told me was that you'll then have another customer that will replace that customer that's going to pay you the $105. So now you're actually making more. And for many small businesses that are established and you're trying to figure out, how do I bring in new business without hiring new employees, without getting another location? How do I bring in new customers? In some ways, you have to thin the herd a little bit. And how do you thin the herd? You increase your prices. Your customer now decides, it's just not worth it. I'm going to go somewhere else and get this because I think I can at another place for a little less expensive. But now you freed up room. Now, how would you even know that that's possible? Because if you're at max capacity, meaning you're already sold out, you can't take on any new customers, you've been around for 10 plus years, you know that there is a demand and a continuing demand for what you do, what your company is, what you sell. And therefore, you should feel pretty confident, and you should, in essence, be emotionally strong enough at that point to go, you know what, we are going to increase the prices. I was having lunch with a client last month, and they didn't want to increase their prices through the pandemic. But one of the other interesting things is that right before the pandemic, they had created this company. And the company provides something that is definitely competitive, meaning there are other vendors out there that do what they do. And it's a company that sells nationally. They're just here out of Oklahoma City. And they produce signage, just to really simplify it. So they gained customers, and they had a customer base. And even through the pandemic, they found that they were really at max capacity. This is 17 employees. They're doing a lot of work. They got a lot of inventory they're bringing in and converting into signage and going out the door. But they found that, we've never increased our prices, meaning we established our prices, we're at capacity. And I said, well, do you think that in part you're at capacity is because it's now time to increase prices? And they said, well, for sure, because we're actually not making as much money as we should on certain things, but we didn't want to increase our prices through the pandemic. Pandemic is, in essence, probably for most small businesses behind us, most small businesses. So when they reevaluated and I helped them walk through some of their numbers, what they came back with is that there were a number of things they were selling that they really needed to double their price, and they needed to be strong enough emotionally to do that. So they ripped the Band-Aid off and called the routine customers that they had to say, hey, listen, we've had this pricing with you. We're going to have to double it because we're not, in essence, making what we should and what we could And we know that there's other competitors you can go to, but here's going to be our price. And no one left. You know, what's really interesting is that of all the clients that I've worked with and of all the clients I have, when they've increased their prices and when I've increased my prices, not one of them has ever lost a customer that they're aware of due to the pricing. See, these are strong companies like you. They have a good reputation. They have good relationships. That's most small businesses. That's most of the self-employed out there. They have that tight-knit relationship with their customers. You know, we have a small pool in our backyard, and we have it serviced every week pretty inexpensively. And twice since I'd probably say about the summer of 21, they've increased their prices. And both times I've called the owner to say, man, great letter, great communication. You guys do a great service. No problem. You've increased it $5 a week. You guys do a great job. I don't want to take the time to go find a new service to do that. You're definitely worth it. And he said, well, I really appreciate that. This isn't a customer of mine. He said, well, I really appreciate that because you never know what's going to happen when you increase your prices. But what he told me was, you know, what's interesting is I haven't lost one customer out of it. And when I called him again, when he did the second increase, he said, I haven't lost one customer out of it. Number one, stop finding ways to avoid being sold out and value what you do and what you sell. So small business owners, self-employed, stop trying to find ways to not be sold out. Meaning, if you're just buying an unlimited amount of inventory, then you're going to work an unlimited amount of hours. Yes, you're here to make money. Yes, you're here to have a profit. Why? So you can pay your vendors. Why do you want to make money? So you can pay your employees. You want to pay your employees well and provide benefits. You want to be able to have a profitability that makes it worth it for you and makes it something that you can put your kids through college and save for retirement and take a vacation a couple times a year. You also want to have a position that, you know what, maybe I do want to take a couple of days off every week. My point is that by being sold out, it's what I had told you in the beginning. So if we could bring that graphic back up on why be sold out, is that it creates urgency for your customer, meaning, well, they better do it now. They better buy now. If you're a tax pro and you tell your customers, hey, listen, we are running out of time. We won't have any more time to work on your tax returns. By the time we hit March 21st, you're sending true urgency to your customer to be able to get, or to encourage them to get their stuff into you. This communicates that you're a great company. You're able to create a finish line for yourself. We're sold out. Like the barbecue company I told you about. Where's our finish line? Hey, we're sold out. Isn't that better to be sold out and have a finish line versus you just never know when it ends? You never know when you're done. When you know that you're going to be sold out or that you are sold out, then that helps you predict your sales. We're going to talk about that. Predicts cost of goods sold. We're going to talk about this. And then the prices, goods, and services that you'll be able to properly determine that you're charging the right amount, and it helps you predict your profits. So Amanda, real quick, I'm going to go through a few examples, but who's on with us today?
We have God's Dozer.
All right, God's Dozer.
Rob from Imagine That Toys.
Oh, always got Rob with us. Appreciate both y'all.
With Flying Colors.
With Flying Colors.
Brent Richards.
Brent. Oh, Brent. Great to see you.
And Kelly Thomas.
And Kelly Thomas. Thank you all for being on today. So let's go to the subset. I'm going to go back and talk about number 8 here, which number 8 is know your capacity to expect to be sold out. Okay, so we just went through the top 10. I want to circle back to this one. And I'm going to use as an example Amanda's son, who has created a lawn care business, right? So there's a young man that graduated high school a couple of years ago and through the pandemic was not able to keep his job where he's working at a restaurant. And so when he graduated high school, he was trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do before I start college? And then he did a year of college and he's like, well, I think I'm going to continue doing in the summer what I did last summer, and that's where we are now. And so one of the things I was able to talk with Shane about was getting to know what his capacity is to sell out. Now, Shane's done a lot of research on his own, but being also his CPA, being his accountant, helping him kind of see some of these numbers really then helped him determine how he wanted to price himself for the summer. It helped him know when he was, in essence, kind of at capacity, as in, then if I charge this, then this is what I'm going to make. And is that then enough? See, before he even started the summer, he was able to make a lot of decisions because he was able to predict when he would be sold out. Guess what? How do you do that? So in a lawn care business, when talking with Shane, he said, okay, if I can do 12 lawns per day, and there's 7 days in a week, then that's 84 lawns as a max capacity. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. Shane starting early enough and getting to max efficiency, he can do 16 lawns. But you have to remember, we were doing this before he started the summer. So in looking at the time and, getting his trailer and unpacking it and, getting the mower out and the weed eater and then going through the customer's lawn and cleaning up and packing it back up and getting to the next one. But, 12 lawns per day is probably realistic, and that's probably a max. We know there's 7 days in a week, so we knew 84 lawns is when he sold out. So he hadn't sold out yet, but we would know at 84 lawns, he's pretty much sold out. So then he had a goal of, well, then here's how many lawns I want for the summer, because this is pretty much all I can do anyways. Now, when we look at the next one, 12 lawns, if he were to charge $50 a lawn, okay, then we know that his max gross sales would be $4,200 a week, right? So that'd be 12 lawns a day at $50 a day, right? So that's $600 a day. If he did it 7 days a week, that'd be $4,200 a week. Well, guess what's probably realistic in the lawn industry? Going to be rain. Can't mow every single day. Got to have room for air. You got to have margin in the sense of weather. The other part is, does Shane want to actually work 7 days a week? He kind of does, but I'm just saying. But what he needed to then look at is, well, what are my cost of my business? So if my max capacity is $4,200, what is the cost of my business? Then what is my net profitability for the week? And is that enough? The other part we looked at is that here's only 5 months in a mowing season, at least here in Oklahoma. We got May and June, July, August, and maybe September, maybe a little bit at the beginning or at the end of April. See, here it gets so hot that the lawn actually dies early and then it goes into winter. So there's 5 months in a mowing season for Shane. If he did do it 7 days a week and he did do 12 lawns a day and he was charging $50 a lawn, then in 5 months, that'd be $84,000, right? So $600 a day, 7 days a week, and assume there's 4 weeks in a month. And then if we have 5 months, then it's $84,000. But see, here's the other reason that this was important is if we go to the next item is that Shane also does landscaping now. And landscaping then versus lawn care per day. So we know 12 lawns per day is $600. But does he only want to do lawn care? Does he also want to do some landscaping? Because landscaping can be potentially more profitable, right? It requires more design. There's now buying some product to then plant. It might be creating a design to put into somebody's yard and then implementing it. And the other benefit to doing landscaping is that it might be, well, I can do 2 landscaping jobs in a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, but it's less travel time. It's just going to 2 houses to do it. And when I asked Shane, what do you think you would make on lawn care? Of course, at the time, it's just hard to know. But let's just say for grins that when he does landscaping and it kind of takes him all morning, let's say a good 4 hours, right? And so he's bringing maybe some flowers with him. Maybe he's bringing some bark. Maybe he's going to haul off some, tree limbs and things like that. Let's just say for grins, and I don't remember the number we came up with, but it was probably somewhere around, let's say $500. So if he could charge $500 in the morning and $500 in the afternoon, that's $1,000 a day for doing landscaping. You're right, there might be some costs that go into that. So let's just say for grins, his cost is $100 a lawn for flowers and maybe mulch and whatnot. But that means that he's going to net $500 in the morning and net $500 in the afternoon potentially. That's $1,000. But guess what? Most likely, he wouldn't sell out on landscaping from the standpoint of people don't need landscaping every single week. They need landscaping maybe once a month, or they might just want it at the beginning of the summer, really. And so you then have to then go, well, do I want to mow lawns 7 days a week, or do I want to mow lawns 5 days a week, have 2 days of margin, 2 days that can be landscaping? See how all these decisions could be made before he's even signed up one customer to mow their lawn. He knows when he is at max capacity. And in some ways, what he's done this summer is learn about his pricing even a little bit more. Because one of the things that Shane saw was he actually decided on average to go with about $45 a lawn. Now, varying the lawn size, it could be more or less, but he then decided to go with an average of $45. And guess what? He started to sell out quickly. People were signing up left and right. Now, first of all, they knew Shane. He worked with them last year. He had some repeat customers, but he had a lot of word of mouth, a lot of social media people wanting to come and check him out. And so he then was like, gosh, I'm getting ready to sell out. Like, I'm only can do so many lawns. Maybe I do need to now go with $50, maybe $55. We talked about if you sign up by this date, it's this much per week. If you sign up after this date, it's that much. So he was able to make his own decisions. But see how many decisions were able to be made. And he was planning to be sold out. Now, one day, Shane most likely will decide, well, I need to hire somebody to help me with this. And I want to hire 2 people to help me with this. So he'll have to determine, well, what's my capacity and when will I be sold out, to then determine all these other things. But see, he would be able to, just like we showed you, he can predict his gross sales, which allows him to predict his costs. If he knows that per lawn he's going to spend, use an eighth of a tank of gas, and he knows how many lawns he's going to do a week, he knows how many gallons of gas he's going to need in a week, as a minor example. He's able to then predict what his profit's going to be, to then predict, well, do I need to charge more? And in some ways, Shane is able to then plan, what is it that I need to do when it's not landscaping and lawn care season, knowing here's what I could make in 5 months potentially, to then know what he needs to plan for, what other service can he provide once it's not the summer. The reason I went on and on about this example is that it's probably something that we can all relate to in some way, shape, or form, because you may have a lawn or you dealt with a lawn. Now, the other one I want to go to is on number 6, have an alternative to sold out goods and services. So let's just go with this example. If you have widget A and it sells for $100 and the profitability is $60, right? So it means there's $40 in cost. That's widget A. Now, if you have also widget B, right? So these are similar, these are in essence similar products, but you have one that's got kind of some extras on it and you have kind of your basic. So widget B sells for $50 and it has profitability of $30. Now, the first thing I want you to know is that when you sell 2 widget Bs, it has the same profitability as one widget A. What do you mean? Well, if I sell one widget A, I make $60. If I sell 2 widget Bs, I make $60. But what you would need to know is that you'd have to sell twice as many B widgets to make the same profit as A widgets. So for every 1 A widget you sell, you'd have to sell 2 B widgets. But see, this is where I would look at, if you're now looking at how many will buy A versus B. And when A is sold out, what happens? So this might be a little different strategy than what we talked about in the study that was done at the University of Alberta. In this example, if I have a customer And let's say that they're providing a service and they say, hey, for $750, we're going to meet with you for an hour. We're going to analyze this and we're going to give you this report. Or for, you know what? I should keep with my numbers. I apologize. For $100, let's keep with widget A, widget B. For $100, we're going to meet with you. We're going to analyze this and we're going to give you this report. But for $50, we're going to analyze it and we're going to give you this report. Right? So one includes a meeting, one doesn't. Widget A includes the meeting, widget B does not. I'm trying to give you an example if you're a service. So you look at it and you go, well, how many people want a meeting? Because there might just be a lot of people that just want to send me their stuff, have me do the analysis and send them a report. So how many people do I think want to have a meeting? And do I really want to just have the same profitability, but I got to sell twice as much as widget B to make the same as selling one of widget A? So what if you then sold something at a higher amount for widget A, knowing that, well, I want to make more when I sell widget A. I want to sell more of widget A because now I'm going to make more profitability. But guess what? That requires a meeting in this example. And there's only so many meetings you can have in a day. There's only so many meetings you can have in a week. So there's only so many widget A's that can be sold. Now, if we're going to a product, right, widget A may cost more for you to buy to resell. That's an obvious, right? Because if your profitability is then $60, that means that your cost was the 40. Widget B, you sold it for $50, but your cost was 20. So when you're now looking at profitability, it's like, well, maybe I need to charge more for product A, for widget A, for service A, because I'm just now adding to the bottom line and there's only so many of those that I can sell. If you're looking at the inventory, it's like, well, I got to buy a higher dollar amount to sell widget A if we're talking about product. Now let's go to subset of number 5. Okay, when we're talking about actual time, right? Whether you're service or you're selling product, there's only so much time in the day. So know how many hours you can actually work and how many hours your employees can work. This allows you to know when time is sold out. So when we go to that, let's talk about the service industry. So depends on labor, which then depends on time. That's what the service industry is really based on, right? So let's go to the example that if there's 40 hours in a work week, if you have 4 employees plus you, that's 200 hours per week. So it'd be 5 of you. Now, just as a side note, fellow self-employed, fellow small business owners, you know, you're not probably able to work 40 hours a week because there's built-in time during the week for breaks, right? For going to the restroom, for taking a phone call, for something dropped and I got to wipe it up, to, a customer had a question about something. But for our example, to keep it simple, let's just say there's 40 hours in a work week and all 40 of those hours are going to be worked. So the next, know how much time is required for your service to know how much service you can provide. So if we look at a service engagement and it's 5 hours, right? So 5 people can generate 40 service engagements per week. How? Let's just go, we look at the math, right? You have 40 hours in a week. If there's 5 people, right? You and 4 employees, then we got 200 hours in the week. So if we have an engagement on average that is 5 hours, then amongst the group, we can only do 40 engagements for that week. So next, if each engagement is $600, then we know 40 engagements is $24,000 for the week. See, many times when you're doing this, you're trying to predict what your sales will be, and in part to determine, okay, am I making enough to pay the other employees, these 4 employees, to generate this? Am I going to be able to cover my costs? Because if you know that your max is $24,000, you've created a finish line. Okay, our max is 40 engagements. Did we do 40 engagements? Did we do the 24,000? And 24,000 times 52 weeks, there would be your gross sales. Is that enough to cover the cost of your employees? Is it enough to cover your fixed costs, your rent, your insurance, your telephone? Is that going to generate enough net profit for you to live on as the owner? For you to be able to pay your taxes, pay your debts, pay for things to take care of your family, things that help your kids and help fund your retirement. So by knowing these things, then it puts you in a position that you want to be sold out. You want to find that max. And so this top 10 that I walked through with you, in my opinion, in essence, puts you back to where you are in the driver's seat. Let's go back to our graphic in closing here. So why be sold out? Right? Creates urgency for the customer. Communicates you're great. It creates a finish line. You're able to predict sales. You're able to predict the costs. You're able to determine if you're pricing things properly. And you're then able to predict profit. See, when you know these things, then you're in a position to know your numbers, which means you know your business. And that's from the Profit of CNBC. I don't want to take any credit for that. Profit. It's a reality show on CNBC of somebody that helps small businesses. But he says, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And it's so true. So you want to get sold out. You want to arrive at a position of being sold out. That means that you priced everything. And so back to my example of the brisket, the barbecue, this restaurant, right? They have it down pat now that they sell out about an hour within closing time. And they even now know that, well, on Saturday, there's typically this kind of demand. And in July on Saturday, there's this kind of demand. And then the week before Thanksgiving on a Thursday, a full week out from Thanksgiving, here's this kind of demand. By being astutely aware of their numbers, it's sharpened their skills that allows them to always be sold out, but having their customers happy, content, excited when they get there. Oh, you still have it? You still got that brisket? So with all of that being said, thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. For those that have gotten to here, if you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would. I don't make any money off of your subscription, but it tells me I'm putting out good information. For those of you that are tuning in all the time or just sometimes, I sure appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. Otherwise, we go live every Monday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, trying to put together information directly for you. Amanda has her finger up for one thing.
I wanted to let you know that Mary Ann is on, as well as Kenya.
Mary Ann and Kenya, thank you so much for coming on. And we're very excited. We've got a group that I work with, and they are coming to Oklahoma City next week. So I'm excited to meet many of them or see them again that came last year. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great one.